Leto is a virgin loser spacefighter whose ancestors fled a dying Earth. After his ship got damaged, he crash-landed back on the desolate planet. However, when he wakes up and notices that he wasn't alone but surrounded by tanned hot Latinas, he ditched the space fights and stayed to let the baddies fight over him. Before the crash, Leto was piloting a powerful AI-controlled robot named Chamber. Together, they are part of the Galactic Alliance of Humanity, heading straight into an intense space battle against Hido. The purpose of this mission is to give the alien a Gok 3000, so that humans can colonize new planets and prevent extinction. Before going for battle, Chamber suggests that after completing this mission, Leto should probably settle in the colony and have lots of reproduction. But Leto isn't sure if his sausage would be able to perform those maneuvers. After being teleported to the Hido's location through a teleportation wormhole, Leto and his entire group launch heavy attacks on Hido's. They throw bullets, missiles, and even laser beams at the monstrous alien. But despite their best effort, Hido's remains unaffected and simply stands there like a giant turd. The commander selflessly goes to fight the alien alone, hoping to buy some time for his team. But just as Leto is preparing to fall back, an ugly alien ambushes him, causing both of them to be sucked incorrectly into the teleportation wormhole. When Chamber awakens the unconscious Leto, he reveals that he slept for 6 whole months. They notice cheeky humans trying to drill the suit, but realize that they're primitive and don't have the tools to cause any damage. Turns out Chamber's suit was brought inside a warehouse after some people found it in the sea. They've been trying to break open the suit for hours, but can't even make a dent. Chamber also reveals that they're unable to determine their location in the galaxy, meaning that they are lost in an unknown place. As Leto regains his senses, he listens to the group of people but cannot understand their language. Surprised that they appear human, Leto asks Chamber to analyze their speech. The AI then offers to eliminate the perceived threat and destroy the surroundings to free Leto, but eventually chooses to wait and observe instead, wanting to learn more about this unknown environment. Once the people leave, Leto exits the suit cautiously. Chamber confirms that the atmosphere is breathable and gravity levels are stable, meaning Leto can survive without a spacesuit. He then removes his helmet to conserve oxygen and begins to explore. But soon, Amy and Pinion return to the hall to gather some stuff, forcing him to hide. But then Pinion spots his footprints nearby and warns Amy to be careful. Before they can react further, Leto grabs Amy and holds a gun to her head, warning Pinion to stay back, but the language barrier remains, and no one understands the other. Leto then flees with Amy on her shoulder like a sack of potatoes, prompting Pinion to trigger an alarm that puts the entire area on alert. During this, Leto keeps feeding data back to Chamber, trying to map out and understand the strange place he's in. Chamber continues working on decoding the language and also notes that the surroundings feel somewhat familiar. As Leto moves outside, what he sees stuns him. A vast ocean stretches in every direction, and the people are living on a massive floating structure that resembles a gigantic ship. Completely shocked by the sight, Leto stops in his tracks with the girl still on his shoulders. At that moment, Amy's annoying squirrel arrives at the scene and jumps on Leto, forcing him to drop her. The armed locals also show up and surround Leto, though their weapons seem primitive compared to Chamber's capabilities. Not taking any chances, Leto summons Chamber, and his massive structure bursts through the warehouse, scaring the life out of the primitive people. Leto is still confused by the strange environment, so he demands an explanation from Chamber. The AI does some calculations and reveals a shocking truth. The place they have landed on is none other than the 3rd planet of the solar system, the Earth. This is the same planet that was once humanity's original home, long before space colonization began. This revelation leaves Leto completely speechless. He is especially shocked because this strange planet covered in oceans should have been frozen for millions of years. Just then, a bunch of armed people and some cheap robots arrive at the scene, ready to eliminate the threat. The AI machine Chamber then hovers in the sky and lands in front of Leto to shield him. It suggests turning everyone into minced meat, but Leto decides to talk to them instead. He instructs Chamber to speak in their language and make it clear they don't intend harm. When the locals hear Chamber's voice, they are shocked and start to suspect that a human might be inside the machine. Soon, a nerdy woman named Rigid, who serves as an aide to the fleet commander of this ship, steps in to question him. Chamber translates between them, even though both appear to be speaking the exact same language. Leto is confused by what the woman wants, so Chamber takes charge of the conversation and reveals that they are from outer space. He yaps about how they fight He Does Alien to prevent them from extinguishing humanity, but the locals can't understand what He Does is. Fed up with his blabbering, Rigid urges the person inside to come out, but Chamber makes it clear that there's no one controlling him, making her amazed by the technology. Later, Rigid speaks with the delivery girl Amy, and learns that Leto didn't harm her during their earlier encounter. He simply smacked her backside one time, but that was all. Amy also reveals that Leto appeared lost and is possibly in need of help returning to his people. She appears to be soft towards him, though she still considers him a potential threat. Rigid then asks Bellows, the head of the excavation team, if she found anything unusual when she pulled up the robot from the sea. Bellows responds that she found nothing and was just following Pinion's orders. Pinion then suggests that they pick apart the giant robot and sell it to buy Netflix subscriptions for everyone, but the others refuse the idea. Soon after, Rigid brings the matter to Commander Fairlock, who's talking through a radio. He immediately rejects the idea of capturing Leto or Chamber. He warns that if Leto truly came from space and has allies with similar power, then provoking him could lead to the fleet's destruction. Meanwhile, Leto privately tells Chamber that their mission now is to reconnect with the rest of the Galactic Alliance. He's confused by this planet, where they use several pronouns to denote man and woman. Leto also expected the Earth to be a frozen wasteland, but instead there is breathable air, drinkable water, and signs of life. He thinks this is a perfect planet where the people of Avalon can settle and thrive. Leto then brings out a pair of teeth, which belong to Hado, and begins playing with it. He reveals that he has sent several signals to space, but none of them have yielded any response. Chamber, who's probably tired of his BS, tells him that they should just wait for the time being. Elsewhere, Amy resumes her delivery work, and she's running around like she just stole someone's purse. Some of her thirsty friends stop her and ask her about the mysterious new boy, wondering if he's tall and handsome. But she brushes them off and uses a hand glider to fly around and deliver parcels. After a while, she goes home to meet her younger brother Bebel, who appears to be bedridden. He immediately asks if the crazy alien boy hurt her, but Amy makes it clear that he only slapped her backside. She also explains that Leto is just a wimp who has slim arms and lacks any masculinity. But Bebel doesn't care about that, as he's fascinated by the idea of space travelers. Bebel then recalls the old myth, which claims that Earth froze over millions of years ago and humans were forced to leave the planet. He now believes that Leto is one of those humans who has accidentally returned home. Amy dismisses these as fantasy, though the reality in front of her is starting to make her question things. That evening, since no one else wants to approach the strange outsider, Amy is tasked with bringing food to Leto. She walks up nervously and hands him some raw fish. Leto, who is used to eating high-tech space food, doesn't understand what's going on, so Amy grabs a fish and chugs it down like a seagull. Chamber then suggests that this could be a peace offering, so Leto accepts it and swallows a fish himself. After this, a curious Amy asks where they have come from, and Leto simply points towards the sky, hinting that he's God. Amy doesn't stop there and keeps bombarding them with questions, which Chamber continues answering. When she asks to see Chamber's face, Leto opens the cockpit and shows her that Chamber is just an AI unit operated by his voice. This makes her so excited that she begins jumping around as if she's won the lottery. Once she calms down, Leto starts asking about this planet. Amy tells him that Earth was once frozen solid, but over time the ice melted and left only water behind. Humanity adapted by living on massive fleets, drawing power from the ocean and using glowing paths in the water, which they refer to as the Milky Way, to navigate. The ship Leto is now on is part of this floating civilization called Gargantia. Despite Amy's growing trust in him, the rest of the crew remains cautious of this skinny alien. Hoping to learn more, Ridget sends Bellows, the head of the excavation team, to investigate the spot where Leto and Chamber first appeared. But just then, the entire fleet comes under sudden attack by pirates. They have come in large numbers and have high-tech equipment like firing drones, something which the Gargantia cannot defend against. Realizing that they'll all be unalived, a panicked Amy races to Leto and pleads for his help. She knows that he and his robot are extremely strong, so she wants their help in defending Gargantia. Seeing this as a chance to gain their trust, Leto quickly agrees. He then boards Chamber and launches into battle, effortlessly locking onto enemy targets and eliminating the pirate ships in mere seconds. Some pirates have infiltrated Gargantia and taken Bellows hostage, but Leto easily finishes them off without laying a single scratch on Bellows. When the dust settles, all the bad guys have been deleted from existence. The residents of Gargantua cannot believe what they've just witnessed and keep staring at Leto as if they've seen a ghost. After Leto wipes out the wave of pirates swiftly, he lands back on the Gargantia, expecting the crowd to worship him. But instead, they stare at him with silence and confusion. A stunned Amy then runs up to him with her useless squirrel and questions what he's done. Leto calmly replies that the pirates have been eliminated and the fleet is now safe, but his answer only enrages her more, as she hadn't expected him to eliminate anyone. She then shouts at him rudely before running away in dramatic fashion as usual. Later, the rest of the crew gathers to discuss the situation. They are equally disturbed, not only by the loss of life but also by the fear that this bloodshed might invite even greater retaliation from the pirates. Ridget asserts that they should get rid of the boy as soon as possible, and a guy even suggests handing him over to the pirates to make a deal, but Commander Fairlock refuses. He says they should focus on finding out what the pirates want right now, and they'll deal with the boy later. Later, Amy goes to meet Leto along with Bellows, and quickly apologizes for her outburst earlier. He tells her not to apologize because these things are quite common in space. Bellows then steps forward and hands him raw chicken as a gift for his help. Leto, who's not used to eating such barbaric food, is shaken but accepts it anyway. As they all sit down and cook the chicken, Bellows thanks Leto for saving her life, but gently explains that this isn't a battlefield like the one he's used to. Here, unaliving someone, even during war, is a big deal, so one must be very considerate. Leto counters by asking why they unalive innocent animals like fish and chicken for their food, and the question hits Bellows like a ton of bricks. She admits that it's not a good thing, but says they only unalive other animals for sustenance, not for fun. The cheeky Leto once again asks why they carry weapons if they don't like bloodshed, and Bellows responds it's just for self-protection. She explains that sometimes there are bad people like the pirates who raid their fleet, so they always have to be ready. But with that being said, pirates are still human and shouldn't be treated as mosquitoes. Leto listens and nods. beginning to understand the different moral compass of this world. Before she leaves, Bellows hands him a communication device to prevent further misunderstandings. But before the dust can settle, word arrives that the Queen of the Pirates, a fearsome, thick hottie named Lucage, has learned of the attack. A lone pirate survivor has reached her and delivered the news that they were manhandled by a strange robot. Enraged, Lucage orders a full-scale assault on the Gargantia fleet, aiming to destroy it completely. As her massive fleet approaches, tensions rise inside the Gargantia. Commander Fairlock learns that about 30 pirate ships are heading towards them, which is more than double the fleet they have. He also gets to know that the attack is being led by none other than Lucage, which makes him almost wet his pants. One of the guys in the meeting suggests they should just run away, but Commander Fairlock reveals that their pathetic fleet isn't even capable of doing that. Just when all hope seems to be lost, Bellows says that they should let Leto help, but this time with restraint. She believes he now understands their values and won't resort to deadly force. Ridget and the commander are still a bit hesitant, but since they have no other choice, they agree. Bellows then contacts Leto through the communication device and asks for his help in dealing with the threat. He agrees, but on the condition that he be accepted as part of the fleet. Leto offers to disable the pirate fleet without unaliving anyone, aiming only to dismantle their weapons and stall their advance. Ridget and Commander Fairlock give him the green light, and Leto starts preparing for some back massage treatment. As the pirates draw near, Gargantia begins its countermeasures, trying to buy time. Leto then prepares for battle, determined to protect the fleet without shedding more blood. At the enemy fleet, Lucage is approaching Gargantia at a rapid pace, aiming to destroy them in the dark. She claims that when it comes to night attacks, no one in the whole wide world is better than her, but just as she continues yapping, someone shines a bright light outside, and it turns out to be none other than Chamber. The enemy pirates quickly start firing at him with their guns, but Chamber dodges all of them like he's dodging his ex-girlfriends. With this, the battle begins, and both parties throw missiles at each other, causing a lot of destruction. Since Gargantia is much smaller and weaker, it suffers the most casualties. When Leto gets to know of this, he decides to up the intensity of his attack. He launches a surgical assault, precisely targeting the enemy ship's weapons and engines. One by one, the pirate vessels are disabled, forcing them to either retreat or surrender. His efficiency and control stun the Gargantia, as this time he's fighting not to dominate, but to protect. However, the battle is far from over yet, as the pirate queen with big airbags Lucage suddenly launches a surprise attack. She rides her bizarre robot known as the Surfing Lobster, which literally surfs the water at an incredible speed. Lucage soon reaches the main ship where Commander Fairlock and the others are present. She begins climbing it like a spider, sending the commander into a state of panic. But just then, Leto intercepts her by jumping onto her back and clinging on tightly. As the struggle intensifies, two of Lucage's minions catch Leto with hooks and begin pulling him away with their motorboats. But Leto is so powerful that he doesn't even move an inch. He mocks her outdated tech, saying Chamber used to brush his teeth using machines like that. Leto then flies high into the sky, pulling Lucage as well as the two boats along with him. He tells her to surrender right now, if she doesn't want to turn into fish food. Lucage says she will fight until her very last breath. So Leto spins her around and hurls her machine far away into the sea. When the remaining pirates witness their hot leader being dominated by a young man, they immediately flee in panic. In the aftermath of this battle, the residents of Gargantia celebrate as if they're in Ibiza. The fleet is safe without any lives being taken, and this has earned Leto the crew's respect. Later, an excited Amy rushes over to Leto and offers him raw meat as a token of gratitude. Leto hesitantly accepts it and finally says thank you in her own language, hinting that he's been using Duolingo all this time. The next day, Leto also starts helping with their work, but since he only knows how to terminate people, he has a really hard time doing menial tasks. Even Chamber is very clumsy and keeps on falling, so Leto allows one of the seniors in the ship to take command of Chamber. Meanwhile, he comes across a piece of document which reminds him of the conversation he had with Ridget the other night. In a shocking turn, she asked him to pay for the damages he caused to the ship last night during the battle. Leto was left in complete disbelief, as without his help these ungrateful humans would have become slaves to the pirates. But Ridget assured him that he won't have to worry about living expenses, and Chamber's services are appreciated enough to cover most of the cost. Despite it being a completely unfair deal, Leto accepted without saying much. Back in the present, Leto has left the work site, and he's casually sitting in a corner while Chamber continues the heavy lifting. Amy then approaches him and starts chatting with him to lighten the mood. She notices the strange, beautifully crafted object he's been carrying and asks where he got it. It is the alien's tooth, but Leto doesn't have the energy to explain, so he simply offers it to her as a gift. He says he has two of them, so she can keep one and do whatever the hell she wants with it. Amy accepts it gladly and decides it's time to drag Leto out for a walk, before his brain short-circuits from stress. As they stroll through the market, she brings up her younger brother, Bebel, who's been eager to meet Leto. But the spaceman doesn't even know what a brother is, and asks for an explanation. Upon hearing this, Amy is stunned, and it soon becomes clear that Leto has no real understanding of family or emotional bonds. Chamber then steps in, referencing historical data to explain that families are people we feel close to and enjoy spending time with. The whole exchange makes Amy realize just how emotionally isolated Leto's life in space has been. She then changes the topic and once again starts rambling about how smart her brother is. Amy explains that Bebel loves talking about space, but he can't move around like the others due to an illness in the chest. Lido, who has no emotions at all, reveals that such weaklings are immediately executed in space. Anyone who can't pick up a weapon and fight is deemed useless and hence disposed of in the trash. Amy is shocked by his way of thinking, but she lets it slide for now. Lido then mentions that he wants to find information about how to return home, so Amy decides to take him to the most intelligent man in the entire fleet, Dr. Oldham. Shortly after, she drops him off at the doctor's cabin and departs from there so that the two can chat alone. Lido gets straight to the point and asks how he can get back to the Galactic Alliance, but Oldham says he has absolutely no idea. He explains that most of humanity's old technology has been lost, and it's unlikely they'll ever find a way to help Lido return to space. Although Lido is disappointed, he comes up with yet another ridiculous question. He asks the main purpose of the fleet, and why they are harboring some weakling here who have no purpose in life. He also thinks that this fleet is ineffective and the training that the children are receiving is garbage. Dr. Oldham laughs at his way of thinking and recommends him to meet Babel instead, saying the boy possesses a lot of knowledge. Later, Lido finally meets Bebel, who is overjoyed to see him in person. Before they can talk much, Amy's thirsty friends arrive and assume that she's brought that good-looking guy to have some fun. But Amy quickly leads them out and locks the door so that the two can talk in peace. Bebel wastes no time and starts asking about Lido's life in space. Lido bluntly explains that there's nothing there but endless battles and a rigid cycle of obeying orders from the Galactic Alliance. Bebel asks what Lido would do if the war ended, and the orders stopped. Lido simply says he'd wait for the next command, as that's all he knows. Later on, he returns to the main ship and continues assisting the other workers. When it suddenly begins raining, Lido is left horrified as this is the first time he's witnessing such phenomena. But then Chamber calms him down and explains that it is not poisonous. Several workers are rushing to collect the fresh water, and Bellows asks Lido for his help too. He immediately agrees and orders Chamber to collect the water with the help of a large tent. Slowly, Lido starts to feel less like a soldier and more like part of something normal. When Amy notices that he's all soaked in water, she decides to take him home to dry him off. Upon reaching, the little brat once again starts grilling him with weird questions. He asks if there's anyone Lido would stay for, someone worth giving up that life. He then shares how, even with his illness, he wants to keep living for his sister. Lido keeps acting like a jerk and says such emotions only make people weak. Bebel then asks why. If emotions are so useless, Lido has kept that mysterious object with him for so long. To demonstrate its purpose, Bebel plays the object like a flute, and as the soft sound fills the air, something stirs deep within Lido. An unfamiliar feeling rushes inside him, and he begins recalling forgotten memories from his past. Lido sees a man handing him the same object before leaving on a mission. He gets so emotional that he cries for the first time in his life. Bebel asks if he's fine, but Lido doesn't understand what just happened, because feelings are new to him. He then asks for the object back, and Bebel happily hands it over to him. That night, while they are alone, Lido turns to Chamber and asks whether there's been any signal from his fellow soldiers. Chamber replies that he's still scanning and that he'll need a lot of time to make any contact. Upon hearing this, Lido says he wants to learn more about this place, but Chamber coldly reminds him that their mission is still to return to space, so it's best that he doesn't get too used to this world. The next day, Lido is once again slacking on the ship, doing absolutely nothing, which makes him feel like a deadweight. He also starts wondering what his purpose would be after defeating all the aliens. Unable to contain his thoughts, Lido decides to get a job and keep himself busy. He asks Chamber to conduct a research about what jobs will be suitable for him, but the AI coldly tells him that his pathetic body isn't suitable for anything. He can't swim, he can't catch fishes, and he definitely can't cook food. Upon hearing this, Lido brings out his flute and tries to play it, but he can't do that as well. Just then, Amy arrives and hands him the payment for hauling cargo the previous day. He opens the envelope and finds a good amount of money, but this idiot doesn't even know what money is and keeps staring at it. Amy asks if he never earned money in space, to which Chamber reveals that in the Galactic Alliance, owning possessions was not allowed. Lido starts seeing himself as a loser for not contributing to the fleet, so he asks Amy for help in finding a job. She immediately agrees, and they start running through the narrow streets to find a suitable job for him. They initially go to a mechanic, and although the man seems to be impressed by Lido, he reveals that he has already hired some new guys. After this, Amy takes him to the fishing department, saying there's always plenty of work there. But the head fisherman reveals that ever since they lost the current, they've had no work to do and are just sitting idly. Amy, who's starting to get annoyed, takes him to Bellows, thinking she can surely provide him a job. But even Bellows says that there's no vacancy, as all the spots have been taken up by other skilled guys. This leaves Amy distraught, as she had promised to find Lido a job, but he understands the situation and tells her not to worry. After Amy leaves for her delivery duties, Lido decides to find a job on his own. He searches every nook and corner of the ship, and even arrives at the farm where a lot of cows are present. But when Lido smells the disgusting smell coming out of their manure, he immediately runs away from there, barely able to hold it in. Just as Lido breathes a sigh of relief, the ship's engine shuts down on its own, and it comes to a complete halt. Pinion then throws a fancy red shirt at him, asking him to put it on and come with him. A confused Leto asks what's happening, to which Pinion reveals that the ship has reached calm water, so they're stopping it for a moment. After a while, Pinion takes Leto, Amy, Bebel, and a few others to a section of the ship. As it turns out, they're hosting a party. Amy knows that during these stoppages they should focus on maintenance and other work, but Pinion tells her to relax this one time. Soon they arrive at the beautiful spot, and Pinion boasts that not many people know about this place. Chamber also shows up and lands nearby, causing a mini earthquake that almost drowns the ship. But it is party day, so the girls quickly put on their swimming costumes and start urging Leto to do the same. He resists, but they climb on him and forcibly take off his shirt. After this, everyone starts swimming in the nearby pool, but Leto makes an absolute donkey out of him. Pinion, meanwhile, has prepared the meat for a barbecue, but realizes that there's no electricity to grill it. Leto tries to be helpful and tells Chamber to heat the food, hoping to contribute for once. But instead of warming it up, Chamber blasts it with way too much heat, completely incinerating the meat and reducing it to a pile of charred ashes. An annoyed Pinion then proceeds to prepare the rest of the meat, but suddenly realizes that he forgot something important. He thus gives Leto an address, urging him to meet a certain blacksmith and get that ingredient from him. Upon hearing this, Amy and the other girls become worried, thinking it's too dangerous, but Leto insists on going. He then runs off like his life depends on it, while the girls take turns applying lotion to each other. Meanwhile, Pinion notices that the giant robot is heating up due to the sun, and this gives him a great idea. Leto soon arrives in a shady location, where he encounters some beautiful muscular women with beards and chest hair. They find him really handsome and start chasing him around to get a taste of his alien backside. At the party site, several high-ranking women, including Ridget, also arrive in their swimsuits to chill and have fun. Amy, on the other hand, is racing with her friends on her hand glider. They're about to reach the top of a tower, when suddenly, they notice Leto running for his life. The muscular women are right behind him, and they soon corner him on a dead end. But just when all hope seems to be lost, Amy catches Leto midair and takes off with him in her hand glider. They then reach the top of the tower and activate the water sprinklers, creating a sort of fountain that cools off the entire fleet. After resting for a while, the girls drop off Leto near the blacksmith store, and he goes inside alone. He soon finds the shady blacksmith, who's surprised to see a young boy in this part of Gargantua, but he gives him the required object and quickly sends him away from there. After a while, Leto finally reaches the party area, but he has lipstick marks all over his body, indicating that the masculine women finally got what they wanted. To Leto's utter shock, Pinion and the others are grilling barbecue on the poor robot's body. Leto then hands over the secret item, which turns out to be a unique flavor of tomato sauce. The crowd absolutely loves it, and Leto also tries some grilled meat with that sauce. He loves it so much that he almost has an alien explosion down below. After the party is over and everyone leaves for work, Amy reveals that this party was organized just for Leto as a gesture of gratitude. This makes him feel really good, and he finally starts to think he belongs here. The next day, Leto is clutching the money he got as payment, confused about how to use it. Chamber reveals that it can be used to buy food, ration, and other essentials, but the idiot Leto thinks air and water are the only essentials in life, so he doesn't know what to do with the money. Just then, Amy shows up and reveals that he can use the money to buy a lot of stuff, including new clothes, Vaseline, and even rubber protection. She also mentions that she has found the perfect job for him, where Leto has to sit inside a robot just like Chamber and go underwater. She soon takes him to the head fisherman and requests him to hire her friend. The man is looking for some helping hands, so he agrees without much thought. Shortly after, Leto gets dressed in his swimming gear, despite Chamber warning him that it might not be a good idea. He then gets inside a random robot, expecting it to be highly advanced as Chamber. Leto asks where its operating system is, but the fisherman angrily tells him to use his own brain to move around. Soon, Leto dives into the sea, but still acts like he's inside an ultra-futuristic AI robot, and begins giving it orders. The others warn him to swim to the surface, but the stubborn Leto keeps barking orders like it's a dog. Eventually, he loses control of the robot, and the others have to rescue him. After Leto messes up on the very first day of his job, he feels like a pile of turd, but Amy motivates him by saying that everyone makes mistakes in the beginning. She later takes him to the market where they sit down to eat some food, but then Amy's friends suddenly arrive and take her away. As it turns out, they're performing at the local festival tonight. Poor Leto not only has to eat alone, he also has to pay off the bill. Just then, he receives a call from Chamber, asking for permission to catch fish alone. Leto tells him to do whatever he wants, and Chamber immediately dives inside the water like an Olympic jumper. Elsewhere at the market, Leto is in deep thought when Pinion approaches him and asks him to come along. Leto, who literally believes anything anyone says, decides to follow him without any questions. They soon arrive at a large restaurant where Pinion orders special dinner for the two of them. He then begins asking the alien if he's ever returning to his planet, but Leto isn't so sure about it. Their conversation is interrupted when Amy and two other baddies dressed in seductive costumes start dancing on stage. In his entire galactic alliance, Leto has never seen anything as attractive as this, and he starts staring at them like a falcon stalking its prey. Pinion then brings him back to his senses and asks him to join his salvage team. He explains that with Leto and his large tin can of his, they can earn a lot of money and buy anything they want. Just then, Bellows arrives at their table and immediately senses what Pinion is trying to do. She thus leans towards Leto and urges him to join her salvage team instead, promising to teach him everything he needs. The two then begin arguing about who should have Leto on their team, but the simp is just fixated on the hot girls dancing on stage. He cannot comprehend how they are shaking their backsides so flawlessly and hypnotically. Soon after, the special dinner arrives, and it turns out to be a bunch of weird-looking octopuses. But the idiot Leto mistakes it for his arch-rival Haidaz, and immediately points his gun at it. He starts yapping about how this alien is going to take over the world, but Bellows takes a bite out of it and claims it's tasty. This makes Leto realize that he's been a complete bellend. So he quietly sits down on his chair. Back at the sea, Chamber is about to catch some fish using his high-tech weapons. He firstly gathers a ton of fish using his sonic waves, then blows them all up with a devastating strike. Shortly after, when Leto and the rest of them arrive, they are stunned to find that Chamber has indeed caught a large amount of fish, but all of them have been turned into toothpaste. Since it isn't edible anymore, Leto decides to get inside Chamber and control it himself. The two then grab a traditional fishing net and dive inside the water with some other cheap robots. This time the strategy pays off, and they end up collecting a large amount of fish, much to the delight of the head fisherman. Later, after finishing the task, Leto receives his payment as well as a toy crab which he keeps with himself. That night, he hangs out with Amy by the sea, and everything seems to be going well. But then the weirdo brings out his stupid flute and begins playing it for no reason, scaring the tiny squirrel. Things go from bad to worse when a lightning bolt hits nearby, and Leto once again mistakes it for Hadoz. He points his gun at the sky, but Chamber calms him down, saying it's just a lightning bolt and there's no need to get worked up. After the embarrassing incident, Leto pretends as if nothing happened, and tells Amy to dance for him. She doesn't even hesitate and starts twerking her body in a weird manner, which seems to give Leto ecstasy. He keeps staring at her with his mouth wide open as if he just suffered a stroke. Once the cringe fest is over, both of them return to Amy's house, where Leto hands Bebel the toy crab. Like a proud dad, he explains how he earned money today and provided for others around him. Leto also reveals that he was invited to retrieve salvage parts from the sea, and is considering accepting it. Bebel excitedly says it's the best job ever, as Leto now has the opportunity to find stuff from the ancient world before it was frozen. That night, Leto gets inside Chamber and the two dive into the sea to start the operation. Alongside them is Bellows, which reveals that Leto chose her instead of the creepy Pinion. They soon come across a massive sunken ship, and Bellows gets excited as she believes it contains a lot of treasures. Chamber then uses his laser to break apart the ship carefully, but seconds later, Leto receives an emergency signal that the enemy is nearby. He looks around and sees a massive whale squid, but once again thinks it's Hadoz and gets ready to attack it. Bellows shouts that it's just a giant fish and urges him to let it go. But the foolish Leto has started seeing Hadoz in everything that moves. He quickly fires some laser beams at the whale squid, but it dodges them skillfully. Chamber then reveals that inside the water, his shots are not that accurate like on land and in space. A stubborn Leto still fires one more round, but it ends up damaging Bellows' cheap robot instead. At this point, the whale squid also becomes aggressive, and it retaliates by constructing around Bellows' tin pot robot and ripping off its arms and legs. Realizing that Haidaz has gone out of control, Leto resorts to Plan B. Just when the giant Haidaz comes charging at him, he grabs it and squeezes it tightly until it explodes like a balloon. In the aftermath of the incident, Bellows is left furious as her precious robot is destroyed, while the superiors of the Gargantia have assembled for an urgent meeting. One of them explains that people have regarded the whale squid as an ancient creature ever since ancient times, so eliminating one of them without any cause is a huge sin. Another guy mentions that the residents are starting to panic, as they believe the death of a whale squid will bring some kind of curse to them. Outside, a large crowd of people have gathered, and they are stunned to see Chamber covered in squid meat from top to bottom. Pinion is also there, but for some reason he seems to be really happy. That evening, Leto collects a small sample of the squid meat and asks Chamber to run an analysis. He needs to confirm whether Hadozi has truly made its way to Earth to wreak havoc. As he waits, his mind spirals into a wave of overthinking, wondering if he was somehow responsible for leading Hadozi here in the first place. Elsewhere, Commander Fairlock is having his body checked by Dr. Oldham in a private room. After the checks are over, Oldham reveals that Fairlock is completely healthy, but he should probably slack off on work a bit and take a vacation. Fairlock immediately refuses, saying he likes it here and also because there's no Dubai or Maldives in this part of the world. The doctor tries his best to make Fairlock panic by revealing that the fleet just got involved with a whale squid, but the old chap doesn't care about that either. He insinuates that dangers give him the thrill, so he welcomes such incidents with open arms. Meanwhile, a furious Rigid has summoned Bellows and Leto to her office to scold them like a principal. She reveals that the residents on the fleet are scared as they believe a curse is about to befall upon them. Bellows immediately takes responsibility for the incident, saying she should have told him about the whale squid beforehand. But the boneheaded Leto still thinks he made the right choice and coldly asks how many of these monsters live in the sea. He asserts that he's going to dive back into the sea and unalive every single one of these hideous monsters until the earth is saved from Haddozi. Ridget tries to make him understand that it's just an ugly fish, but Leto is certain that it's his ex-girlfriend or Haddozi in disguise. Meanwhile, the sneaky Pinion approaches a high-ranking official named Flange and starts whispering something in his ear. This is noticed by Bellows and Ridget from a distance, and they realize the idiot is up to no good. That evening, Leto goes to meet Babel and starts asking him several questions about the whale squid. The boy explains that they are just sea creatures and pose no harm if they're not attacked first. Amy also joins in and urges Leto not to unalive those poor creatures just because they're ugly, but Leto gets increasingly angry and goes on a rant about how unprepared they are for a Hydalos attack. He claims that the alien has taken the identity of marine creatures, but once it shows its true form, no one will be ready to fight against it. Both the siblings are stunned by how foolish Leto is and urge him to not cause any trouble, but he ignores them and walks out without even drinking his tea. Later, Chamber reveals the results of the whale squid sample, explaining that while the outer layer has adapted to the environment, there is no difference between the genetic makeup of this and the Hidawas. Realizing that it's the same species, Leto vows to find every single whale squid and shove rods up their backsides. That evening, the residents of Gargantia are horrified when they notice a large pack of whale squid coming towards them. Panic spreads instantly, and everyone scrambles to get inside their homes in a desperate attempt to stay safe. Ridget and the other superiors are also trembling in fear, wondering if they'll be able to survive the onslaught. But the commander Fairlock arrives at the scene and takes charge of the situation. With a calm voice, he reassures everyone that the ugly fishes pose no harm to them. Fairlock then speaks through the ship's intercom, urging all the residents to turn off their lights and remain completely silent. He says that if they stay perfectly still, the squids are going to pass by without causing any damage. Within seconds, all the lights in the fleet go out one by one, and the engine also stops running, bringing the ships to a halt. Outside, Leto has also learned about the incoming threat, and he's about to get inside Chamber, but Amy comes in his way. She pleads with him to stop this madness, even offering to show him her belly dance moves, but Leto pushes her aside. He argues that this Haddozi beast is the enemy of the universe, so they must eliminate it before it's too late. Just then, Ridget also arrives there with some soldiers and points her gun at Leto. She tells him that if the whale squids attack, he can do whatever he wants, but if they don't cause any damage, he has to stay put. Leto doesn't even get a chance to reply when the fleet suddenly starts shaking. It turns out the whale squids are swimming under the Gargantia, and everyone holds their breath, hoping they cause no harm. After a tense few minutes, the ugly creatures finally swim off, sparking a wave of relief across the residents. But the imbecile Leto is still not satisfied, and he vows to delete each and every single one of them from existence. Now that the danger is averted, Pinion finally reveals his sinister plan. He arranges a meeting with Commander Fairlow and explains his plan to go down to the whale squid territory and salvage treasures from there. He proudly declares that Leto and Chamber have already agreed to join him, and now he wants to break away from the Gargantia fleet. To everyone's shock, Flange also wants to accompany them with his ships, and even submits his resignation. The other superiors claim that if a major ship owner like Flange leaves, it will weaken the fleet's defense system. Commander Fairlow also rejects the idea, but just as he's about to deliver his next sentence, he suffers a massive heart attack and passes out. The old man is brought to the emergency room, where he's given immediate medical treatment. He regains consciousness for a while, but it's evident that he's not going to make it. Fairlow then summons Ridget and hands her the key to the Gargantia, making her the new commander. She desperately tells him to hang on, saying the people need him. But Fairlow shuts his eyes and passes away, leaving everyone devastated. On the other hand, Chamber has finally managed to track down Earth's coordinates, but he has some really bad news. He reveals that the distress signal they sent to the Galactic Alliance won't be received for the next 6,000 years. It's also virtually impossible for them to reach home on their own, meaning they might be stuck here forever. Leto cannot believe that he'll have to stay on this rotten ship with these incompetent people, and he starts sweating like a diabetic person. Later, the entire fleet prepares for the funeral of Commander Fairlock, and all the residents seem to be devastated. Ridget, who's dressed like a night shift nurse, comes running to the superiors and says they should talk about Flange's departure. But the men shout at her for focusing on other things when it's the late commander's funeral. One of them even mentions that it was Fairlock who raised Ridget when her father passed away, so she should be grateful to him. It is quite evident that most of the superiors in the fleet don't support the immature Ridget as their new commander. Elsewhere, Pinion meets up with Leto and learns that the poor alien is unable to return back to his colony. Sensing his vulnerability, he reveals that there's a nest of the whale squids deep inside the sea. Leto immediately becomes interested, and Pinion asks him to join forces so that they can benefit each other. He explains that there are a lot of treasures down there, but Leto will have to clear the path for them. This way, Pinion will get his money and Leto will get his revenge, making it a win-win situation for both. Since the ignoramus Leto is easily manipulated, he agrees without any hesitation. Meanwhile, hundreds of people have packed their stuff and are leaving the fleet along with Flange. She later meets with him and tells him to reconsider his decision of leaving the fleet. However, Flange says he's already made up his mind and doesn't want to stay here with this inexperienced Dumbo. He also sees potential in Pinion's excavation plan, and thinks it'll be a great way to earn money. On the other hand, Amy learns that the alien boy Lido is also about to depart with the others to hunt some whale squid. This sinks her heart, but she pretends to be fine in front of her friends. That evening, all the residents of the fleet come down to the deck to pay their respects to the dead commander. Flange talks to one of the superiors and urges him to train the girl properly, or she'll lead Gargantia to doom. Flange then approaches Commander Fairlock's coffin and utters some emotional words before paying his respects. Meanwhile, Ridget is still inside her office, burdened with everything that's happening around her. She's soon approached by Pinion, who wants her to sign the documents for his ship's separation from the fleet. She says no right away, but Pinion argues that she doesn't have the right to stop him. It's nighttime now, but the funeral ceremony is still going on. Amy, who doesn't care one bit about the dead commander, is stalking Lido from above like a desperate creep. When one of her thick friends notices this, she urges her to join Lido and be with him. Amy thinks about it for a while, and fantasizes about all the romantic things she could do with him. But then she refuses, saying Gargantia is her home and there's absolutely no way that she can leave her sick brother behind. Amy later goes home, where her nosy brother immediately asks her if Lido's leaving. She confirms it, and pretends as if she doesn't care about it. But then while preparing food, she suddenly gets aggressive and starts shouting at why the idiot Lido is trying to leave them. Ridget meanwhile is still inside her cabin, depressed over the fact that no one listens to her. Just then, Bellows approaches her and tries to lift her up by spurting out some words of encouragement. She claims that Ridget is a really competent and juicy commander, so the people will eventually start listening to her. Down in the basement, Lido is busy sharpening his knife when a worried Bebel comes running toward him. The boy asks if he really has to go, and Lido once again gets riled up. With a deep voice, he explains that Hido is spreading fast on Earth as well, so he'll have to eliminate it before it takes over. Lido also claims that a weakling like Bebel will be the first one to be executed, so he's doing this to make sure that doesn't happen. Bebel still tries to change his mind, but Lido hands him one of the flutes and shuts him up. Shortly after, the funeral ceremony has reached its end, and the residents are about to send the commander's coffin in the sea. But this is when Ridget comes running down to them, dressed like a vampire. She apologizes for being late, and then proceeds to honor Commander Fairlock with tears in her eyes. Once that's done, the coffin is finally released into the sea, and the residents bid their goodbye to the handsome commander. Ridget then steps forward and decides that it's the perfect time to become the center of attention. She announces that as the new commander of the fleet, it is her duty to protect all the residents and make them happy. But for that, she'll be needing the support from every single one of them, even the tiny squirrel. At first, no one speaks a word, but when one of the guys says he'll support her, the rest of them start doing the same too. One cheeky guy even says they don't need Flange's ships anymore, and that Pinion was a useless salvager anyways. Hearing all of this makes Ridget smile for the first time in days, and she announces that a new dawn has begun. The next morning, Lido goes to Amy's home to bid the siblings one final goodbye. Bebel still tries to persuade him to stay, but the stubborn Lido dishes out another boring speech before departing. Moments later, Pinion, Flange, Lido, and hundreds of other people separate from Gargantia and head their own separate path, while Amy watches them with teary eyes. A few days later, Pinion steers the ship to the exact spot where the whale squid nest is located. He tells his crew that there's a big haul down there, and that they're going to be filthy rich soon. Lido then wastes no time and immediately dives inside the sea with Chamber. They travel deep into the depths and soon come across a massive fleet of the ugly creatures. Chamber calculates that they're probably in the thousands, but also notes that he can easily take down every single one of them. Lido gives him the permission, after which Chamber starts obliterating the poor beasts using his weapon. Up on the ship, Pinion is excited that he's finally going to get his hands on the treasure that he's so desperately wanted for years. He then remembers an incident from the past, where he and his elder brother ventured near the nest in their cheap robots. They soon came across a secret opening, which they assumed was hiding treasures and other valuables. Without thinking much, Elder Bro then went inside, while the coward Pinion waited outside alone. Soon after, Elder Bro reported that the place contained gigantic machines and other remnants of the ancient civilization. But when he tried to explore further, he discovered that the place was actually a whale squid nest. That was the end of Elder Bro, and since then Pinion has always set his sights on coming here and retrieving the treasure. Inside the water, Lido and Chamber are absolutely tearing apart the poor beings. The robot mentions that due to the difficult conditions inside the water, 23% of his energy has already been consumed, but Lido tells him to shut up. He came here to lynch every single one of these ugly creatures and he's not going to leave before accomplishing that. Lido then swims at an incredible speed and rips apart the whale squids as if he's opening a packet of chips. He even goes as far as using explosives despite the fact that the poor creatures aren't posing any threat to him. As he reaches deeper and deeper, Chamber reveals that the density of the creatures is increasing, so it's best that they retreat for now. But Lido flat out refuses, wanting to finish them off right now. He then signals Pinion, and the ship releases hundreds of explosives into the sea, causing massive destruction. In the aftermath of the explosions, Leto asks for a status report, and Chamber reveals that about 67% of the creatures have been eliminated. Their carcasses are now floating on the surface, much to the delight of Pinion and his crew. Down below, Chamber says the rest of the creatures have retreated into their nest to protect it, so Leto charges in aggressively. He takes down a few more helpless creatures who come in his way. After a while, they enter through the same door that Pinion's brother had found years ago. They are suddenly stopped by a massive female whale squid, which is pregnant with baby eggs. It charges at him, but the deadly robot manages to turn it into minced meat without much effort. The two then venture deep inside the tunnel, where they spot thousands of tiny whale squid babies. Some of them even resemble humans, but the ignorant duo thinks they are Hido's children, and cruelly incinerate them with lasers. Shortly after, they reach a large hall, where Chamber finds several hard drives lying on the ground. Leto asks what they are, and Chamber vaguely explains that they were used in ancient civilization to store data and dirty videos. He then quickly scans through all of the hard disks and loads the information on his screen. Leto wants to see it, but Chamber reveals that this is classified information of the Galactic Alliance. However, when Leto shouts that he's the boss and has the bigger sausage, Chamber has no choice but to comply. He then displays a video, which shows what the ancient civilization had to face when the Ice Age was about to grip the world. A group of scientists, led by Ryan Matsumoto, developed a technology that would help humans evolve into aliens capable of surviving in the harsh environment. But this sparked fierce protest from all over the world, as they were against evolution and wanted a sustainable way to survive. These idiots were called the Evolvers, and soon the two factions engaged in a heated rivalry. Several months later, it started to snow heavily on Earth, so the scientists had to step up their research for space travel. But then wars also intensified, and people started plunging into madness. When the planet started becoming uninhabitable, the scientists shifted their focus to create a new form of human that would survive even in space. The first person to volunteer was none other than the lead scientist, Ryan Matsumoto. In an interview, he revealed that these transformed humans could withstand the pressures of the sea and even the absolute zero vacuum in space. As the world plunged into Ice Age, the Evolvers were also forced to undergo genetic mutation to save themselves from the cold. Many of them escaped to space. But even there, the war didn't end, and the two factions continued unaliving each other. Upon hearing this, Leto is left horrified as it finally dawns on him that the Hidos is actually the advanced form of Evolvers, who refuse to participate in scientific developments. This means that he slaughtered thousands of actual humans right now, and his colony in space has been at war with humans too. Just then, the final remaining whale squid approaches them, but before Leto can say a word, Chamber mercilessly crushes it to pieces. This devastates Leto so much that he lets out a blood-curdling scream that echoes through the sea. Back on the ship, Pinion and his minions are delighted to see the floating corpses of the whale squids. Chamber also shows up and reveals that all Hidos inhabiting this area have been turned into gooey slop. The news sends Pinion into a state of ecstasy as he can now finally retrieve the treasure he has always wanted. An hour later, the excavation process has already begun, and some cheap robots are working tirelessly to retrieve the ancient treasures. Leto, meanwhile, has still not recovered from the fact that he just unalived thousands of ancient humans. He keeps having flashbacks of the time when he played Fruit Ninja with them. He almost pukes inside his own helmet, but holds it together and rushes to the toilet. At the main deck, Pinion is chugging some premium whiskey to celebrate this major success. He also pours some in the sea for God knows what reason. Just then, he's approached by an excited Flange, who cannot wait to use these ancient machines for the betterment of humanity. But Pinion rudely says that these are his treasures, so he's not going to share them with anyone. A random sailor argues that keeping these precious machines will make them a target for pirates, but Pinion is confident that they can destroy anyone in their path. He boasts that with a huge stockpile of ammunition and Chamber fighting alongside them, they're ready to take control of the entire world. Pinion grows so arrogant that he decides to announce the valuable treasure they've just recovered. Flange and the others warn him against it, fearing it will bring unwanted trouble. But the overconfident Pinion isn't going to listen to anyone now. Shortly after, he actually goes live on radio and announces to all the ships nearby that he has cleared the whale squid nest. He also warns them to stay away from his fleet, or else he'll sink everyone to the depths of the ocean. Everyone on Gargantia, including Ridget and Dr. Oldham, hears the broadcast and starts to believe Pinion has lost his mind. Meanwhile, Flange is starting to get worried as he never separated from Gargantia for the riches, but to find something valuable for the sake of humanity. A delivery girl comes up to him and urges him to stop Pinion before it's too late, but Flange reveals that most of the residents of the ship have started looking up to Pinion, so there's not much he can do right now. Down in the basement, Leto is inside his robot, trying to learn more about the fight between humans and Hidos. He's still struggling to cope with the massacre he caused a few hours earlier. Just then, Pinion approaches him and casually asks for his help in carrying some containers. But Leto is done being the servant, and he furiously tells Pinion to get the hell out of here. Back at the Gargantia, Ridget seems to have finally gained the trust of her residents, and they have connected a bunch of new ships in their fleet. One of the superiors asks if she's going to take any action on Pinion, but Ridget says she won't, as he isn't causing any problems to them right now. Maybell, meanwhile, is having one of his usual checkup sessions with Dr. Oldham. He keeps asking stupid questions like why Leto destroyed the whale squid pod and why his sister wears the same clothes every day, but the doctor has no answers to them. Amy is also crying alone as she misses the handsome alien dearly, but her friend insists that she can always hook up with random fishermen with sweaty arms. The next day, a pirate fleet tries to sneak up on Pinion's ship to loot the treasures, but this turns out to be a huge mistake. Pinion launches a barrage of missiles at them, and even uses one of the machines he retrieved from the whale squid's pod the previous day. This machine fires a laser so powerful that the pirates' ship is destroyed, forcing them to surrender in an instant. After their victory, Pinion boards the enemy's ship and imprisons the ugly pirate that was responsible for attacking them, but he chooses to let the residents join his fleet, as he's in need of more manpower right now. Later, when Leto and Chamber arrive at the main deck, they are stunned to see so many new people. Pinion then announces that it was Leto and the tin robot who lynched all the whale squids deep inside the sea. The crowd goes absolutely crazy, and Pinion decides to throw a party in their honor. Shortly after, the crowd starts drinking. Dancers take the stage, and the atmosphere bursts to life, just like an Irish pub on a Sunday evening. But Leto is lost in his thoughts, unable to understand what he's doing in this ship right now. Meanwhile, Pinion brings Chamber to one of the rare mechanisms they salvaged from the seabed. After examining it closely, Chamber identifies it as an electromagnetic weapon similar to the one integrated into his own body. Eager to gain an edge, Pinion insists on repairing it quickly so they can use it as a weapon and kick more backsides. Shortly after, Chamber approaches Leto, who's still crying in the corner like a little girl. He tries to cheer him up by reminding him that their absolute mission is to protect humanity from Hados. A furious Leto insists that they are also humans, and he can't unalive them anymore, but Chamber, who has been brainwashed from birth, says they have to eliminate the Hados before the Hados eliminates them. As the two are arguing, Leto's pager suddenly begins ringing. As it turns out, they have received a transmission from one of their friends. Leto then looks closely through the pager, and is shocked to discover that it is none other than his commander, Kugel. The very next morning, Flange and the captain notice a large fleet of ships coming towards their way. Fearing that they are pirates, they immediately begin the preparations for an attack. Leto, on the other hand, gets a video call from his commander, and the two speak for the first time in months. Kugel reveals that he was also sucked by the wormhole, and has been living on Earth for the past few months. His fleet is just nearby, so he orders Leto to meet him there in person. At the main deck, Pinion and the rest of the crew are observing the large fleet that is coming towards them. Without knowing if they're pirates, Pinion decides to attack them first. He readies the electromagnetic weapon and fires a powerful shot that ends up destroying a small part of the mysterious fleet. But to Pinion's utter shock, the fleet retaliates with an even stronger attack, causing severe damage. Pinion then zooms in through his binoculars and is left shell-shocked to see another massive alien robot on the fleet. He immediately calls Leto to discuss the matter, but Leto gets inside Chamber and flies away to meet his commander. Shortly after, Leto lands on the mysterious ship, only to find hundreds of cult-like figures with strange marks on their heads. Chamber reveals that they are highly trained militants, far superior in combat than the losers on Gargantia. A strange lady named Taro then welcomes Leto in some medieval English and leads him away from there. He is made to pass through a series of tunnels and secret doors, after which he finally arrives in a room. There, Leto finally meets his commander, but in holographic form as Kugel reveals that he cannot exit his robot due to a sickness. He nonetheless is delighted to see one of his kind after a long time, and Leto also smiles like he's on a date with his crush. Kugel then asks if he's going to follow him like in good old times, to which Leto responds with a resounding yes. Outside, Chamber and Kugel's robot, Striker, which turns out to be female, also engage in an awkward conversation. Meanwhile, the entire crew surrounds Pinion, scolding him one by one for his reckless mistake. They blame his earlier announcement for drawing this massive fleet to their doorstep. Pinion tries to brush it off as just coincidence, but his crew members are having none of it. Just then, they receive a message from the Kugel fleet requesting to speak with one of their representatives. Flange, the seasoned negotiator, offers to go, but Pinion insists he will go himself. He admits that the situation is his fault, so it's his responsibility to fix it. Flange tries to refuse, but then they receive news that the commander of the other fleet only wants to see Pinion. This immediately boosts his ego, and he starts thinking of himself as some big shot. Soon after, a boat arrives to pick him up, and it turns out to be none other than the surfing lobster manned by Lukage. She's come with her massive airbags as usual to make sure Pinion doesn't get hurt during their ride. Minutes later, they reach the Kugel ship, where Pinion notices that all the people look malnourished and sad. He asks what's the problem, to which Luca explains that these are peasants they captured from another ship recently. She then shows him a picture of their god, which shockingly turns out to be Commander Kugel. Elsewhere, Leto and Kugel are still engrossed in their serious conversation, where Kugel explains that even in this world, humans are overwhelmed by Hados. Leto blurts out that Hados are also humans, but Kugel clarifies that they used to be humans, not anymore. Leto is shocked to learn that his commander always knew about this truth, but Kugel says it's not important as the Haidas are their sworn enemies and they must eliminate them in every part of the universe. Meanwhile, Pinion is led to a strange room, where Striker begins talking to him through a metallic device. She starts praising his mechanic skills, especially how he lubes the rods and inserts them in different places. Pinion knows she wants something from him, so Striker cuts to the chase and asks him to become their chief engineer. She knows that Pinion is capable of repairing the ancient artifacts retrieved from the sea, so she wants to offer him a full-time position. Pinion questions what he'll gain from this, so Stryker gives him a blueprint of all the ancient mechanisms, which will make him the smartest man on Earth. He immediately accepts, after which Stryker orders some delicious food for him to seal their partnership. Shortly after, Flange is also urged to join the Kugel fleet with promises of unlimited food and guaranteed prosperity. The old man is reluctant to join them, but deep down he knows he has no other choice. Later, Flange and the entire residents of his fleet cross over to Kugel's ship. Taro then welcomes him, and coldly reveals that all the residents will be accommodated in different ships to manage the crowd. Flange tries to protest, saying all his people are like a family to him, but Taro warns that if he refuses, he'll be crushed like a bug. This leaves the old man with no choice but to comply with her orders. Taro then makes him kneel and draws a strange symbol on his forehead, the same mark carried by everyone in the fleet. Meanwhile, Lukács shows Pinion around the market, explaining that in this fleet, money doesn't exist and the residents get food based on their hard work. She also explains that the residents of his fleet are being separated into different sections. An enraged Pinion demands an explanation, and Lukács tells him it's to prevent them from uniting and starting a rebellion. Down in the basement, Leto and Chamber discuss why Commander Kugel never reveals his real face. Chamber suggests it's because if the residents knew he was just an ordinary human, they might not obey him. Keeping his identity hidden is a tactic to instill fear and ensure the people follow his every command. Just then, Leto receives a call from Kugel, who reveals that they're going to launch an attack on a nearby fleet soon. Leto is more than ready to help, but when he learns that the fleet is none other than Gargantia, his mouth is left gaping in shock. Later, Pinion is taken to a massive room filled with thousands of mechanisms from the ancient world. Taro orders him to restore every single one and make them operational, even handing him a high-tech device that lets him see inside the machines without dismantling them. Delighted by the fancy equipment, Pinion gets to work right away. But soon after, Lukács approaches him and taunts him for agreeing to work so easily. She tells him he has no backbone and is simply good at oiling things up. Pinion doesn't understand what she's trying to say, so Lukács gets straight to the point and says she's trying to escape from here. She has grown tired of the pathetic life in this fleet, which makes her feel like a slave, so she's going to cause a rebellion soon. Leto, meanwhile, approaches Kugel and bluntly tells him not to attack Gargantia. But the brainwashed commander says his job is to bring order to this world, so he must destroy any fleet that comes in his way. Kugel further explains that since they cannot return back to Avalon, he's now trying to transform this world into his own utopia. Leto is tired of his commander's non-stop yapping, but he simply pretends to agree for the time being. After leaving the room, Leto runs into a cheeky squirrel, which reminds him of the one Amy used to carry around everywhere. It then suddenly begins to rain, and Leto starts recalling all the happy times he spent at Gargantia. Elsewhere, Flange, Pinion, and one of their close friends meet in private to discuss the current situation. Flange says he's tired of living in this desolate fleet, where everyone looks and acts like zombies. He also fears that his people might be eliminated for no viable reason. Flange then expresses his regret about leaving Gargantia, saying life was much easier back there. Upon hearing this, Pinion reveals that someone is plotting a rebellion and is going to take action very soon. Flange wants to know who it is, so Pinion truthfully admits that it's the curvy pirate Lukács. Leto, meanwhile, follows the squirrel, only to come across hundreds of people praying to God in the rain. He doesn't understand what's going on, so his intelligent robot reveals that they're just idiots. Chamber also mentions that the threat level is almost zero, and there's nothing to worry about. Just then, several people with their hands bound are brought near the edge of the ship. Leto stares at them in shock, while Taro announces that these people are going to be sacrificed for the sake of their prosperity. Leto tries to stop them, but he's easily subdued by some nearby guards. Taro then gives the green light, after which all the poor people are dropped into the sea like trash. Leto is devastated by the sight, and he begins crying, while Pinion, who also witnessed the sacrifice, thinks to himself that these people are crazy. Lukács then approaches him, and reveals that the next target will be Gargantia. Realizing that his friends might be unalived, Pinion abandons his engineer role, and decides to finally grow a pair. Leto is also in a similar situation, as he absolutely hates how Commander Kugel is treating the people. He then once again begins to reminisce about his time on Gargantia, and vows to do whatever it takes to save the ship. After this, Leto returns to the basement, where Chamber reveals that Commander Kugel has asked him to be ready for battle. Chamber now awaits for his decision, but an enraged Leto makes it clear that he's the one who makes decisions. Out of nowhere, he asks Chamber if he has equal capabilities as Stryker. Chamber says he doesn't have enough data to make that assumption, but Leto wants him to fight and defeat the evil robot Stryker. Chamber expectedly refuses, giving the same BS that he's been designed to attack enemies, not allies. But when Leto keeps on insisting like a little wimp, he reluctantly agrees. After this, Leto summons a delivery girl, who used to be his friend at Gargantia, and urges her to fly there and warn them of the impending attack. The girl immediately obliges and flies off above the sea in her hand glider. After traveling for hours, she finally manages to spot Gargantia in the distance, but has become incredibly weak due to the long journey. The girl tries to continue but ends up passing out, and heads straight toward the sea. Just when she's about to make contact with the water, someone suddenly rescues her in their hand glider. That someone turns out to be Amy, who immediately escorts her unconscious friend back to Gargantia. When the delivery girl wakes up, she finds several people staring at her, as if she owes them money. After she tells everything to them in detail, the superiors decide to turn their fleet around and escape as fast as they can. But then Amy shows up, revealing that Leto is going to fight against one of his own kind so that Gargantia can escape. She claims that they would be nothing short of cowards if they abandon him alone. Most of the leaders still want to retreat, but Dr. Oldham argues they should fight, saying that even if they die, they will do so with honor. He then advises Rigid that it's time to use the key that the commander had given to her before passing away. At the Kugel fleet, he gives a boring speech about how he's trying to unify humanity by eliminating all the unwanted ones. He then prepares to fly off and destroy his next target, Gargantia, but he's suddenly confronted by his former pupil, Leto. Kugel tells him to get out of his way, but Leto warns him to stay away from Gargantia, or there will be war. Growing angry, Kugel claims that the fate of the people on Earth is their responsibility, but Leto shouts that these people have already built their own society, and there's no reason to destroy it. Their argument eventually escalates into a full-blown fight, scaring the life out of the peasants down below. As expected, Stryker proves far more powerful, effortlessly dodging every attack Chamber throws her way. She also manages to land a few hits on her opponent, putting Leto under a lot of pressure. But just when it seems Stryker is going to emerge victorious, she is hit by a powerful strike from below. It turns out to be Pinion, who's operating one of the ancient machines from ancient Earth. When Taro sees this, she immediately orders her minions to eliminate Pinion, but then Flage's fleet shows up with reinforcements. They pelt the Kugel fleet with missiles, and even Luca joins in on the action, destroying hundreds of worthless tin robots. As the war rages on down in the sea, Leto and Kugel are also going hammer and tongs at each other in the sky. Chamber analyzes the situation and reveals that he's having difficulty securing a good strategic advantage, so the best possible solution right now is to conduct hit-and-run attacks. But Stryker proves too powerful, and she lands a devastating blow on Chamber that causes serious damage. She then goes for the final strike, but just then, she's hit by Pinion's devastating laser from down below. This gives Leto the perfect opportunity, and using every single ounce of power in his robot, he charges at Stryker and squashes her against the ship's giant funnel. In the aftermath of the devastation, Leto comes out of the robot and slowly approaches Stryker. But when her helmet opens, Leto is horrified to discover that his commander Kugel has actually been dead for a long time. It turns out the robot was simply using his voice to communicate with others, and that was also the main reason why Kugel was never seen in person. Just then, Stryker comes to life and flies back into the sky, prompting Chamber and Leto to prepare for round 2. Stryker then reveals that while the commander no longer exists, she's carrying out his plan exactly the way he'd want. She further admits that it was Kugel who started this dictatorship rule as a means to unite people. Now that he's dead, Stryker has taken up his position and is ruling people with the same ferocity that he once did. She explains that after everyone in the world acquires equal peace and prosperity, her mission will be accomplished. Stryker also goes as far as calling herself God, as the peasants have been worshipping her like crazy. Leto argues that she's just making everyone her slaves, but Stryker makes it clear that she's just relieving them of the burden of responsibilities. Just then, Chamber also joins in on the conversation, and despite being the same model robot, he argues with Stryker's thinking. He asserts that they're just AI companions designed to serve humans, so it's not in their right to rule others. Chamber then speculates that after Commander Kugel died, it exposed a flaw in the robot system. Normally they were designed to self-implode without their pilots, but Stryker has not only survived, she has gone absolutely rogue. Realizing that she's a dangerous threat, both Chamber and Leto get ready to destroy her once and for all. Meanwhile, Flange's fleet has come under heavy attack, and it's only a matter of time before it sinks completely. The captain runs towards fleet and urges him to evacuate immediately, but the stubborn old man chooses to stay, saying he'd rather die with dignity here than being deemed as a coward. At the Kugel fleet, the situation is just as dangerous, as they're being bombarded from all sides. When Pinion realizes that the ship might sink soon, he selflessly orders all of his crew members to get to safety. He even talks to Lucas through the radio and requests her to escort his people, which she accepts. After this, Pinion chooses to keep fighting on his own, so he can support Leto in their war against the rogue robot. Up in the sky, the two robots are engaged in a fearsome battle, but Leto cannot land a single hit as Stryker is too fast. He wonders how she is so powerful even without a pilot, to which Chamber reveals that she analyzed Kugel's movements and is now operating on her own. Chamber also mentions a totally demoralizing stat, revealing that Stryker is 47% faster and more powerful than him. This makes Leto realize that no matter how they attack, they are never going to take down Stryker, so he decides to attempt a risky move. Leto orders the Neuro Plus power be activated, which will merge his neural system to the robot, but Chamber firmly denies it, saying it could kill both of them. Leto then goes on a rant about what would happen if this rogue robot is not taken care of. He warns that it might result in the extinction of humanity or even the end of the world. Leto says that if his sacrifice means the saving of mankind, then he's more than ready to do it. Upon hearing this, Chamber gets riled up and he finally agrees to activate the Neuro Plus power. Leto screams in pain as the robot is integrated into his body, but now Chamber is 150% times more powerful than he was. He warns that they only have 483 seconds to complete the mission before Leto's vital organs start shutting off. At Gargantia, Rigid and the others have decided to activate their biggest weapon known as the Heaven's Ladder. They know that the weapon's use may lead to widespread devastation, but it's a risk they have to take for the sake of humanity. Back in the sky, a reinvigorated Leto is just starting to regain his momentum when he spots Amy on her glider. The foolish girl thinks it's the perfect time to tell him that she misses him a lot and urges him to come back to her. Just then, Gargantia uses the Heaven's Ladder to launch a missile, which ends up wrecking a good chunk of Kugel's fleet. Tora and her brainwashed peasants finally realize they're in danger, so they try to make a run for it. Meanwhile, Stryker also assesses the situation and decides to target Gargantia first as the missile is far too dangerous. But Leto goes right after her, determined to finish off the rogue robot before she attacks Gargantia. At Kugel's fleet, Pinion is still fighting alone, but Luca contacts him through the radio and informs him that a large missile is coming his way. He immediately leaves his position and jumps into the sea, and Luca manages to catch him in the nick of time. Seconds later, Rigid fires another missile towards the Kugel fleet, destroying it completely and ending the war on the sea. But the battle in the sky is still very much alive as both the robots are dishing out some brutal blows to each other. As time is running out, Chamber urges Leto to get out of the cockpit, or else he will end up destroying his body. But Leto insists on using his final 30 seconds to launch one last attack, saying he isn't afraid to die since he never truly lived. Just then, an alarm blares inside the cockpit, and Chamber announces that he's officially relieving Leto of his military duties. Leto tries to protest, but Chamber forces him out of the cockpit and decides to finish things alone. He tells Leto to go and live his life to the fullest, as this world seems to have endless possibilities and hot girls. After this, he turns around and starts tussling with the deranged female robot on his own. Stryker protests that ejecting the pilot without permission is a violation, but Chamber tells her to go to hell before striking her with full force. The impact triggers a massive explosion, shaking the entire area like an earthquake. Stryker is finally destroyed, but so is Chamber, and the heartbreaking realization brings Leto to tears. With the evil now gone, everything returns back to normal. Pinion, Flange, and the others reunite with their friends at Gargantia, and even Leto begins working as a salvager. He can now control tin can robots, and even has the squirrel as his pet friend. The show comes to an end as Leto and Amy finally go on a real date with their respective squirrels by their sides. If you want us to cover another roller coaster of an anime like this, comment Giant Squid below. Until then, subscribe, like, and share this video with all your friends.